Right, so Labour deselections is an ongoing story as the authoritarianism of Team Keith continues to purge not only members but candidates too. Not that members or local Labour organisation is necessarily accepting it, as we saw with the mass resignations in Broxtowe, with the entirety of local Labour Party officers resigning over the deselection of their local candidate, Greg Marshall, for the crime of being remotely socialist, instead seeing the parachuting in of 3 out-of-area candidates, including 2 from London and a mate of the regional director, Richard Oliver. One of the London candidates was even employed by the Tony Blair Institute to really rub salt in the wounds. Anna Joy Rickard, previously having run for selection last year in Derbyshire, so chasing down a seat wherever there might be an opportunity, acting like a female Paul Mason, if you will. She lost here as well, incidentally, despite having claimed close ties to Broxtowe and apparently stormed out in a huff. Oh, bless. She's now deleted any trace of her supposed links to Broxtowe from her social media. No doubt she'll pop up somewhere else soon. Greg Marshall, who attended anyway, despite having been kicked off the candidacy, was cheered, and according to the Broxtowe Labour Twitter account, when the new candidate got selected, Juliet Campbell, the other London candidate, the floor was left littered with torn up Labour membership cards. Now, this was hardly a high-profile story. It had mainly been carried by alternative media, but it has to be noted that the Starmer purges are not limited to parliamentary candidates. As with the local elections coming up in May, Starmer and the NEC have just purged no fewer than 12 city councillors from a single council, in what one of the councillors described as an operation worthy of Joe Stalin. Leicester City Council is where we're at, a Labour-run council punching itself in the face for purely factional reasons. The Stalin comparison in use again is interesting, I thought. We all know Starmer gets referred to as Stalin a lot on social media, and perhaps it's a thing with Labour leaderships led by Knights of the Realm, as like Sir Keir Starmer, Leicester City Council is led by Sir Peter Soulsby, very much of the same faction. The dozen councillors deemed unworthy now, or of course all of the left, as if I even need clarify that anymore, but they were all served with a condescending email saying, "Dear Councillor, thank you for applying to be a Labour candidate in Leicester in the upcoming elections in May. I am sorry to inform you that you have not been successful on this occasion. Whilst I appreciate that this news will be disappointing, the decision of the NEC panel is final and there is no right to appeal. I would like to thank you for your work on behalf of the Labour Party in Leicester and wish you luck in your future endeavours. Kind regards, Richard Oliver, Regional Director, East Midlands Labour Party." Yes, it's him again, the same guy, giving these councillors a proverbial kick in the nuts, whose mates ran unsuccessfully, as it turned out, in Broxtowe. So it's another example of who you know and what faction you're in. You have to realise these people now deemed unfit have served on the council for Labour for years. They are experienced, knowledgeable, but all of that is irrelevant when it comes to Starmer's Labour, where if you aren't a red Tory, there's the door. It should be pointed out that although I've referred to 12 Labour councillors being purged here, these are just the ones that have publicly come forward about it. It may be that there's even more than we yet realise. Aside from the 12 alluded to here, we know of one other councillor who had already quit the party to stand as an independent instead. And of this dozen, a man called Stephen G, who we'll come back to in a moment, will also stand as an independent. Yet another has announced his defection to the Greens, rapidly becoming the go-to party for socialists now, being welcomed by them as we are. At least 2 others have resigned from Labour as well, without yet expressing their intent going forwards, and another 3 have issued a joint statement expressing that they are taking time to consider their options. The new Green Party member, Patrick Kitterick, by defecting to the Greens, has meant they currently have their first representative on Leicester City Council. Here's hoping they get more. But following his dismissal by Labour and subsequent defection to the Greens, he has accused his former party of crushing dissent and opinion, and now feels he can better serve the people who elected him from the opposition benches of the council. He had actually been suspended by the Labour Party for the last 6 months, and all because he joined a meeting which called for the ending of their mayoral system. The current mayor being the aforementioned councillor Sir Peter Soulsby. He was suspended for causing the local party embarrassment. No such whipping exists in the Green Party. I hope he'll be happier there now as a consequence. He's now allowed to have an opposing opinion, but good God, embarrassment is now a sackable offence effectively. Clearly, rebellion will not be tolerated in Sir Peter Stalin's fiefdom any more than Sir Keith Stalin's, it would seem. I want to come back to that chap Stephen G now, though, as he put out a thread detailing what he went through during the selection process. This makes for some interesting reading. It's pretty shocking stuff. G admits to being somebody who suffers from anxiety and ADHD. We don't have nearly enough public representatives who take health conditions which affect people's daily lives seriously, let alone suffer from them themselves, and still have the courage and wherewithal to stand up and say, I'll represent you. Under the terms of the Equalities Act of 2010, there should, however, have been reasonable adjustments put in place to aid Mr. G throughout the selection process due to the nature of his conditions. And that should have been put in place with the NEC at that NEC interview. He will have gone through, particularly as he admits to struggling during such stressful occasions. He had spoken to his local constituency Labour Party's disabilities officer to ensure reasonable adjustments were put in place, and as such, the officer duly contacted the regional director about this. We're back to Richard Oliver again, but got no reply. As such, no adjustments ended up being put in place for Stephen G. He was put under an undue level of stress, and the Equalities Act would appear to have been violated, in his case, by his own party. I can only conclude that this is a picture we're seeing repeated across the country, these kind of purges, where the Labour Party, expected to do well in May as the Tories continue to implode, are ditching as many socialist candidates as possible, installing red Tories in their place, which will completely fail the people they are meant to represent. If you're a Labour voter and you have elections coming up near you in May, please do your homework locally and get the gist of your local Labour candidate. Voting Tories out is one thing, but if you're just going to vote another one in wearing a different coloured rosette, but that's as far as the differences go, perhaps consider other options. I recommend the Greens, but then I am one, so I'm very much biased. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do hit like and subscribe. Leave a comment and hit the notification bell too, so you don't miss the next one. Also, look out for me on social media and other interesting stuff by clicking on the Linktree link in the comments below. And I will see you next time. Cheers, folks.